prep a therapeutic art session with me. The session I planned was a very simple one, because simple is often the best. Today, we're painting sticks. Sometimes I worry that this level of simplicity in the project will trip up our perfectionistic, production-focused minds, but that's kind of the point. We need to face our perfection. We need to face whatever anxiety it is that's already inside of us and remind ourselves that it is okay to just play. Phase 1 of prepping the art session was creating an invitation to creative play. I used this book that I bought several years ago for my son. It's an art workshop for children, and it's about process and creating an invitation using simple materials, easily available, and ready to be used in an imaginative and very tactile way. Once I set up the invitations, phase 2 was just to settle into the art session. People came, they interacted with the materials, and I wanted to see how the simplicity went. Did they take to it naturally? And it was such a joy to see that they did. It was very tactile, and there was no measure of success. It was just, are you enjoying the process? Phase 3 was all about cleaning up after everything. Cleanup is pretty easy, but I really like doing it kind of methodically and thinking about how the process went. How did people respond? How did the conversation go? Could I have done better? And sometimes the answer isn't, Sarah, you should have worked harder. The answer is, Sarah, maybe you could have set up the invitation a little more clearly. And for this one, I honestly had no notes for myself. It was very nice. And now it's phase 4, or an unofficial phase 4. I did not have time to make samples before the art session, and this is, I guess what you'd call a retroactive sample. When I started the art session with my friends, I made it clear from the beginning, this is all about play. And play can be surprisingly hard for us to do, especially if we're adults with many responsibilities in our lives. We've experienced hardship and grief and all sorts of things. And those things are in your face. You cannot avoid them, right? And you deal with them the best you can. And play is something that doesn't always pop up in your face saying, let's do this now. We need to make an intentional choice to play and give ourselves space to enjoy instead, or else it probably won't happen. Play is surprisingly hard work for many of us. Maybe we didn't have space for that as children. We were asked to take on too many responsibilities too early and we never learned. Or we faced some trauma that broke our ability to be creative. Or maybe, well, there's so many different reasons. And learning to play is exercising a muscle. It takes some intentionality, and it means we are pushing against the temptation to just numb ourselves with our phones, with TV shows, with our video games, with whatever it is. There are worse options as well, obviously. And creativity is the intentional choice to not numb ourselves, but instead sit in the quiet of our own minds and say, maybe I can enjoy this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against phones or shows or video games. I very much love a good video game, and I will spend a lot of time deep into the world of someone else's creative mind. It is consuming story and art, and that's amazing. There is space for that. The main question you need to ask yourself is, am I consuming this to numb myself, or am I consuming this to enrich myself? As I finished painting these little sticks, I had to ask myself, what was the point? Were these enriching? Was it just a waste of time? They are not a finished product. They are not something I can show someone and say, oh my gosh, I did such an amazing job. Look how great I am. I'm seriously just sticking them in a plant. They are silly and unnecessary. Thankfully, silly and unnecessary is part of the goal. That's part of what makes it fun. I added these sticks to my plant, and they're in there with the little mini figures that my husband and my son painted at a Comic-Con recently. And it just makes this little tiny scene that is totally silly and random, and that's part of the joy of it. And the green stick I painted, I didn't even know where to put it. That's a little fail. Tried to put it in a plant, didn't even work. It ended up in a pot. And sometimes that's just how it goes. And this one, I just tied it up and tucked it away for another day so that later I can come back to it and see what sort of balance I can create. And I have a little place on the back of the door in my art studio where I hang things that are just little treasures. And it'll stay there until I'm ready for it. And now for the final cleanup. I wear aprons often around my home to get my brain into cleanup mode. It helps. And then I forget I have it on, and then I just keep wearing it the whole day, which, oh well, it's a little silly, but yeah. Thank you for joining in this therapeutic art session. I have to keep my in-person art sessions small. If I host it in my home, obviously I need to keep it small and private. But on YouTube, you can join us and you can hang out just through these wrap-up videos that I make. So please subscribe, stick around. It'll be great to have you.